Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another review, and AEW Forbidden Door 2024 is now done. And these are my initial thoughts because I just got done watching the pay-per-view, 5 minutes ago? So these are very, very fresh thoughts. The opening match was MJF taking on Hechicero, and yeah, man, it felt like MJF phoned it in. Except for the crowd participation that he had. Felt like the actual match he might have phoned in. Maybe because it was a nothing match, so I kind of don't blame him in that sense. It was clearly meant to be Roosh. That obviously couldn't happen, and we got this match instead. And it's just, yeah, man, it's just not what it should have been. It's not what it should have been for MJF in his hometown. A more featured match was definitely what he needed, but it was alright. It was alright. I mean, I don't know what more to say. Hechicero was doing his technical wrestling style. MJF was doing a lot of crowd participation. He ended up getting the win, but underwhelming. Underwhelming, you know what I mean? So the very first match was basically just a crowd pleaser, with it being MJF in his hometown. And then the second match we got was the Elite taking on, who was it, the Acclaimed and Hiroshi Tanahashi. What Tanahashi is doing with the Acclaimed, no idea. But this match as well, standard 6-man tag action. Tanahashi can't move like he used to, that's for sure. Okada was being Okada. The Young Bucks were being a Young Bucks. Anthony Bowens was a star in this match. Anthony Bowens needs a singles run. Anthony Bowens deserves a singles run. Max Caster was kind of just Max Caster. A little bit of a spicy rap before the match, but again, fine match. Nothing else. Fun moments. Just standard 6-man tag action. Let's just say the show was definitely off to a slow start. Like, nothing really kicked into gear just yet. This felt like pre-show matches still, if that makes sense. Pre-show matches with stars, which is kind of underwhelming. But then we got onto this match, and I'm going to spend a bit of time here. We got Bryan Danielson taking on Shingo Takagi. And if you know anything about me, you know that Shingo Takagi is probably, right now, he might be my favorite in New Japan. He really might be my favorite in New Japan right now because Shingo really is that good. And he deserves everything that he's getting in Japan, even in AEW. Getting the spotlight, he deserves it. And I think he has been on the pre-show, I think, the last 2 Forbidden Doors. And I've claimed and I've cried out for him to be on the main show, and now we got him versus Bryan Danielson, a personal dream match of mine, and boy did these guys go at it. Hard hitting, technical wrestling as well. Of course, Danielson doesn't want to get into too much hard hitting with someone like Takagi. I really enjoyed this match. Bryan Danielson ended up getting the win over Shingo Takagi. I think Danielson's going to win the Owen Hart tournament and face Swerve in All In, which is interesting to say the least. Interesting. I assume it's going to be like his send-off match in a way. So, I don't know if I want that though, because I was thinking Nigel McGuinness on commentary, and they were alluding to that a lot in this match. A lot. But, great match. Not a 5-star classic, but close. I think these guys had a bit more they could have given each other. They really did. Maybe it was a time factor. But really great match. I enjoyed this a lot. Where does Shingo go from here? I suppose back to New Japan, and hopefully, I would say back into the main title picture, but after his stablemate ended up getting the win later on, we know that's not going to happen right now. So, all the best for Shingo Takagi. And if you guys don't know about Shingo Takagi, there's a couple matches I got for you. So let me know down in the comments, and I'll let you know those matches. I don't want to get into it right here. Then we had Toni Storm taking on Mina Shirakawa, and this match had a lot of story to it, which was one thing that I admire, because often the women's matches might lack a bit of story. And this match certainly had a lot of story, with Mariah May having to pick sides, and in the end, not picking a side. Kind of went underwhelming in that factor. For the story, kind of underwhelming. But I think that story is not done, because I think Mariah May is going to win the Owen Hart's Classic, the women's side, and then face Toni Storm at All In. So the story's not over, but I kind of wish you picked a side of some sort, a little bit of drama. Anyway, decent match as well. Maybe could have gone on longer. This was one of the shorter matches of the night. I think it was only 11 minutes long. So that was a bit disappointing, because they were actually doing really well. Fast-paced stuff, quick strikes, quick action. Toni Storm is again finding that balance between her gimmick and her wrestling, her work rate wrestling style, which I'm glad she's trying to find that balance, and it showed more in this match. So, a pretty average match, not too bad, not too good. I'd say it needed more time, and it could have been a really, really, really good match. Then we moved on to Orange Cassidy and Zack Sabre Jr., and I was not looking forward to this because I thought Zack Sabre Jr., one of my favorite wrestlers in Japan, with Shingo, and I thought Ospreay, probably my least favorite wrestler in AEW. Sorry, guys. Sorry, you can hate me later, but it is true. I do not like him. But Ospreay showed out. Orange Cassidy showed out. He held his own in the technical aspect with Zack Sabre Jr. I could see Zack was kind of holding back on the amount of like reversals that they do or the amount of transitions that they do within the technical aspect, because Zack can move when it comes to that groundwork and that mat-based technical work. But he kind of held back a little bit. But like I said, Orange Cassidy held his own in that aspect, and props to him. Props to him. They made this a really good match. One of the matches of the night for sure. And I was surprised. And I got to give Orange Cassidy's credit where credit is due. The silliness kind of still put me off, but he held his own against Zack Sabre Jr., which not many can do. Not many can do that. We then had Hook, Katsuyori Shibata, and Samoa Joe taking on the learning tree of Chris Jericho and Big Bill. And then, of course, they had Jeff Cobb on their side. This was a TV match. We did not need this on the pay-per-view. They added it last minute for no reason as well. Not needed. Boring. I don't know what else to say about this. Typical six-man tag action. Nothing interesting whatsoever in this match. So let's move on from this. And the next match was the six-man ladder match featuring Konosuke Takeshita, Leo Rush was in there, El Phantasmo was in there, we had Jack Perry in there, we had Mark Briscoe in there, and who was the last name we had in there? Dante Martin was in there. All for the TNT, the vacant TNT championship. And I think going into this, it was predictable. One of two people was winning, and that was either Jack Perry, the likely predictor, or it was maybe, I don't know, Konosuke Takeshita would somehow get the win. But in the end, Jack Perry... Okay, the story throughout the match was Jack Perry was taking his opportunity. He was the opportunist throughout the match. Whenever people were down, he was the one climbing up, but he'd get stopped. And eventually that came to fruition, and he won. So they had a story there. Now, this match was heavy into its spots. I mean, the one spot that was pretty cool was Mark Briscoe diving off a chair onto Konosuke Takeshita, was sandwiched between a table and a ladder. Nasty move, nasty, but it looked really, really cool at the same time. Proper TLC spot. Then there were a bunch of other spots with Mark Briscoe jumping off a ladder. We had Leo Rush getting powerbombed into a ladder. We had a whole bunch of stuff in this match, as you'd expect from the competitors and the match type. Whether it was the best ladder match I've ever seen, probably not. Simply because it was this move, which a lot of ladder matches are, but the better ones are the ones that aren't just spots after spots. So, Jack Perry gets the win, predictable. Like to see what he does with it. Maybe Takeshita would have been my first pick, to be honest, but let's see what he can do with it. We then had Mercedes Mone taking on Stephanie Vacure, and yeah, this was a championship versus championship match. TBS championship versus, and obviously the New Japan Strong Championship, both on the line, winner takes all. Now, we knew Mercedes Mone was going to come back for vengeance because she never won that title when she was in the final against Willow Nightingale, the New Japan Strong title, that is. And that's what she did. Mercedes Mone is now a double champion. The match was also pretty... Mercedes is getting better and better and less rusty every time she wrestles. She's understanding the AEW style more and more, work rate heavy. She's always been one of the best women's wrestlers in the world. And she's just getting a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better each time. So, good match. Nothing spectacular, nothing out of this world. In fact, there was only two matches that were absolutely out of this world on this card, and we've already spoken about the one in Shingo and Bryan Danielson. So, good match, solid, definitely one of the best on the card. So yeah, at the end of the day, solid match was from Mercedes Mone and Stephanie Vacure. We then had, where do I start with this match? We had Jon Moxley taking on Tetsuya Naito. This was so boring. If they moved any slower, they would be standing still. They would be standing still at this point. Such a boring match. Nothing interesting happened. The most exciting part was Naito hitting Moxley with a foam pad that's not going to hurt him, but he's acting like it's going to hurt him. Like, we can see what it is, my guy. This match was terrible. Worst match of the night by far. And nothing else was bad. It was just average or boring. This was absolutely bad. You know what I mean? nothing else. As much as I might have criticized some other matches, they were not bad by any means. Like, if they were on TV, they would be a banger. Okay, if this was on TV, I would still say this was absolutely horrendous. It was just so slow. It felt like nobody cared. It felt like Naito was phoning it in, and I know Moxley wasn't phoning it in. As much as I don't like Moxley, he's gonna work hard, but he just wasn't given that opportunity in this match. This was terrible. Their Windy City match that they had a couple months ago was not even great, but it was better than this. This might be one of the worst, like, main level matches that we've seen on AEW pay-per-view. You know, like, horrible stuff. This sloppy, slow, never got into second gear. Just, yeah, boring, man, boring. Let's move on to the good stuff, though. We had the main events with Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland all going for Swerve Strickland's AEW World title. This was a banger. This was a banger. Perhaps there was another step they could have gone, but still, and I think that is done on purpose, but still an absolute banger. The near falls at the end, oh my, I thought the match was done about 4 times, and it wasn't. And what I liked is when Ospreay was kicking out of absolutely everything that Swerve had, he didn't bounce up and just attack Swerve. He was swaying all over the place. He was gone for, and that led to Swerve just finishing him up. You know, it was kind of like just that instinct that I'm not going to quit, and he kicked out in that way. You know, not just I'm going to kick out and I'm going to hit my finish on you. I really like that. He sold the kick out. He sold the position he was in. And that was really cool, because often we just see near falls and then guys spring up and do their stuff. That wasn't the case in this match. Really good stuff. Both men hitting their finishes. Both men kicking out of each other's finishes. But obviously, Swerve Strickland got the win, surprisingly. I thought this was Ospreay's to win. And it leaves me wondering what Ospreay's going to be doing at All In. It really does. Something, obviously, for the international title, which feels kind of underwhelming, because we don't know if they're going to be back next year for All In. And I don't think ticket sales are too great this year for All In, or they're not what they were last year, that's for sure. So I'm hoping he gets his moments at All In. You know, his big moment. He deserves it. He is so over. He's what now? Now that's 18-1 in AEW. 1 loss for him. This match, I think, could have honestly been a 5-star classic. Perhaps if it started a bit sooner. Like, when I say started a bit sooner, I mean if they kicked off a bit sooner, because the beginning was quite slow, and I thought, okay, this is going to go very long, and it went long, but it didn't go quite as long as I thought when they took it slow in the beginning. But great stuff nonetheless. The show as a whole was decent, just very, very long, and I got tired of it towards the end. Like, honestly, that Moxley match made me question my whole life. Some of the matches were needed on the card, like the hook, the 6-man tag. In fact, both 6-man tags not needed on the card at all. That would have made the night so much better to watch if those 6-man tags weren't there at all. Yeah. I get the long pay-per-views. I get you have to sell your pay-per-view, because this is not WWE where there's a paid subscription. This is, I have to sell a $50 pay-per-view. So I get it. You've got to try and stack it and make people want to get their money's worth. I respect that. But you need to find a balance. That was the biggest issue with this card. There was the good matches, there was the average matches, and there was the one trash match. So I can't complain too much. That's going to be on most pay-per-views, to be honest. Dr. Britt Baker coming back, exciting stuff. That was the only real surprise, other than Swerve actually getting the win. But all in all, I'm happy with it. It's just far too long. If it was cut down by another hour, I would have been pleased. And I think those 2 matches would have brought it down. If those 2 6-man matches weren't there, would have been happy. So with that being said, let me know what you thought about AEW Forbidden Door, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care. Peace.